Hello there, Happy New Year. I'm Jamie Mitchell. Nice to have your company for the first Armchair Fan episode of 2021. A massive first guest to kick off the year too with Queensland Reds backrower Angus Scott-Young. Last year, Angus was named the University of Queensland's Sportsman of the Year. We'll reflect on that achievement, his rise through the rugby ranks, and get an insight into what it's like to study while trekking the globe playing footy. Plus, stay tuned for a ripper story about the day Angus's dad went face to face with the mighty All Blacks during the haka. All right, here he is now, Angus Scott-Young on the Armchair Fan Podcast. Angus, thanks for coming in. Great to connect with you.
Yeah, no worries. Happy to be here.
I want to indulge you a little bit of a bit of a history lesson, if that's okay.
Sure.
So I've been going back through the record books to really celebrate your Sportsman of the Year win in 2020. The records show us that 13 rugby players have won UQ Sportsman of the Year award, all of them Wallabies. It's a who's who really that have gone through the doors here at UQ but have also won that award. So Mark Lyon was the inaugural winner in 1979, won it again in 82. Duncan Hall in 1980, Tony Parker in 81, Michael Lynagh, 1985, at the time he retired, rugby's all-time leading point scorer. Andrew McIntyre won in 85-88, Pat Howard, 93-94. Then we go to Nathan Sharp, 98, Stephen Moore in 2007, James Hansen in 2013, Angus Scott-Young, 2020. Congratulations.
Yeah, wow, it's a good crop of lads there, isn't it?
Yeah, how does that sit with you when you found out about that award?
Yeah, no, to be honest, I didn't really expect it. I know they put the nominations out sort of when we were in mid-lockdown throughout the rugby season. So I was like, that's pretty cool. I know a few of my mates like Jock Campbell and Harry Hawkins were nominated. But to win it was pretty cool, especially when you look at the calibre of men and athletes that have won it before. Like you said, a lot of them, well, all of them have been Wallabies and a few captains at that. So to be, I don't know, likened to those guys is just an awesome feeling.
Yeah, so the award, while awarded in 2020, it was on results in 2019. So let's probably go back and sort of reflect on the last few years with the Reds. I mean, this year particularly has been pretty wild. Yeah. Actually, let's start there. The stop-start in HS Super Rugby is rocking and rolling, then COVID hits, and then it goes to a domestic competition. You did play all of the Super Rugby AU games, including the finals, but just reflecting on what wild year it was, how was your performance this year? How did you find it?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, like you said. We started the actual Super Rugby competition, I think we were about 7 rounds in, and then we played the Bulls at Suncorp on the Saturday, and then recovery Sunday, and then Monday they just called us on a Zoom meeting and said, look guys, we're going to have to shut down because it looks like this COVID thing is happening worldwide. By that time, the NBA had already shut down. There'd been, worldwide news that it was all going into lockdown. So that was crazy. Like, we never thought that'd happen. And then after that, we were in lockdown for about 6 to 8 weeks. It's a pretty interesting experience and different challenge because a lot of the boys came to the Ballymore gym and ransacked the whole place, like took the weights, took all the bars. We were trying to divvy it out fairly, and then guys like Nello, there's a big truck, just rock up and take like 400 kilos worth of plates because he needs it to squat. But
what about you? What did you do in that break?
I took some weights. I luckily had some weights down at my dad's gym that I moved up to my house, just made a pretty good little tin shed down under my house. We were given sort of rough programs to complete throughout the week. Luckily I snagged one of the last bikes, stationary bikes at
Isn't that wild, dude?
At Ballymore, yeah. And so
it was like a garage sale.
Yeah, legit, yeah. We were running in there like crazy. So just pretty much for 6 odd weeks, we just do my little bike gym, walk in the backyard, play with the dog sort of routine, and that was that.
Were you okay with that hiatus from rugby, or did it trouble you that you'd lost, a major part of your week and your campaign?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I actually really enjoyed the start of that lockdown because, like, coming from a science background and like being really interested in medical and how there's often an interplay between science and like the economy. I thought it was so cool that, although it's quite a devastating thing to happen, I was very interested in COVID and the implications it had for like worldwide trade and all that different stuff. So for me, I got excited when it happened and I like wanted to research it. I went and watched like Contagions, a movie on Apple TV. It's such a good movie because I was like, that's pretty much what's happening. So did that, really got into COVID, researched that, but like obviously playing footy is what I love to do, go out on the weekends at Suncorp and play. But I saw it as a good opportunity to sort of heal some injuries, some niggles that I'd had. I'd had a plantar fascia issue that had sort of plagued me for like 6 months. And so that was perfect time for me because, week to week I was getting like needles in the bottom of my foot trying to sort it out, but it wasn't really budging. And then being given like 6 to 8 weeks in the middle of a season for me was pretty much perfect. So by the time the end of the lockdown came, I was like ready to go. So that was probably positive.
So the season gets called. It's a new rugby, an Australian specific competition.
Yeah.
When you actually start playing again, how undercooked are you compared to what you normally would be?
Yeah, I mean, well, this year's pretty interesting just in terms of the preparation side of things because our preseason for next year is starting this week, so we will have done 3 preseasons in 1 year, which is pretty hectic.
Of course,
Yeah, because after we came back from the lockdown, we trained, but we trained in like groups of 10 because we weren't allowed more than 10 on the park. We had to social distance, so we couldn't really pass any footies because of contact with the football. Couldn't do any contact stuff, so we pretty much were just running in straight lines next to each other, but 2 meters apart.
Was it good to do it, even if it was boring?
It was fun because you could just throw chat with your mates, because you'd been at home the whole time. Yeah. So we probably did that for like 4 weeks, and then once the regulations were lifted, went back to I think 4 more weeks of pre-season. So we were, by the time the Super Rugby AU competition came around, we were pretty good nick, and I think everyone was just keen to get on with it and play the game. So, I mean, when I played the first couple of rounds, we all felt pretty fit, and I was obviously benefiting from the time to nurse my niggle, so I felt fresh. I was ready to go.
You have to remind me, the whole year's just been a blur.
Yeah.
Did it start with crowds, or did that come back towards the end? I can't remember that.
I think we were lucky that one of our first game was at Suncorp against the Waratahs, and that's when they had a 25% capacity rule at the time.
That's right, I do remember that.
I remember crowds definitely being there the first game. The week before, it would have been no crowds.
Yeah.
But by the time our first game had come around, they were allowing people at the Suncorp.
There was a great video that the Reds posted earlier this year, but you were talking about the excitement you get from running out on Suncorp Stadium, and you mentioned that it gives you goosebumps every single time you do it. Can you just explain the sensation you get when you're preparing to walk out in front of a cauldron like that?
I can explain the goosebump sensation. I mean, I know a lot of footy players say it, both from league and union, but Suncorp's like quite a special place to play. Just the atmosphere there is pretty crazy, and I think as the crowd is pretty much right on top of you, it's quite a good stadium to play at. Like I've played in a few places around Australia, New Zealand, and like South Africa. And I'd out of all of them, just obviously I'm a little bit biased because I'm a Queensland Reds player, but I think Suncorp is probably the pick of the bunch that I've played at. And like recently, even playing the Rebels in that semi-final at Suncorp, like when the support is massive, it's just, I don't know, it's just second to none really. But in terms of the preparation to running out there, you obviously get a few butterflies every time. Yeah. You just got to get out there and focus on what you want to do.
Did you enjoy the domestic concept? Great to have those interstate rivalries again for the supporters. What about the players?
For sure. I enjoyed the derbies quite a bit. There was, like a bit of aggression, which was good because I guess most boys are playing for Wallabies jerseys. Like you just got to get over your opposite man, which incentivises that aggressive side of things. And you look at the New Zealand Super Rugby counterpart, how aggressive some of their derbies were. I think that was the main thing that stood out to me. Like every match was pretty much a grudge match.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, to be honest.
It was interesting watching the New Zealand comp get underway. Packed house, it was a really unique thing. Yeah. We'll talk a bit more about the 2021 season because it's quite a unique concept.
Yeah.
Not quite the silverware that you're hoping for with the Reds, but a great campaign to make the final. How do you evaluate the season?
Yeah, it's a bit of I've mixed feelings about it, I guess. We came pretty close playing in the grand final down in Canberra, and I got to show respect where it's due. The Canberra boys definitely outplayed us on the day, but I think if we'd put on a good performance there, it would have been there for us. So it fell agonisingly short, but I think there's a lot of positives to take from the season as a team. A lot of young guys, putting their hands up, playing really well, and to finish second in the Australian Conference, like bodes really well for the next couple of years. And I think you've seen a mentality shift in us in particular. We're not really that team anymore who will win one game, lose one game, and it's just a roller coaster ride. Aside from Waratahs this year, that was one hiccup we had, a big hiccup at that. But I think we're a lot more consistent, and that's sort of like the mentality switch we've had.
A lot of random Super Rugby questions coming at you in no particular order.
Sure, why not?
So you debuted in 2018.
Yep.
From there to now, how have you improved as a player?
Have I improved? Well, I guess when I was 20, turning 21 when I debuted. I was a pretty raw player. I guess my strength was just I was a big, strong, abrasive sort of guy. Like my main strength is probably in defence because I like hitting people. That's sort of my thing. But in recent years, I've tried to develop a few more skills, in particular like my ball handling skills. Little tip passes to my outside man is always a good option. And I really try to work my attacking threats is like another area of growth I'm trying to improve. Yeah. And then also, any good back rower should have the ability to pilfer, which is another really important thing in today's game. So those are the sort of areas, probably attack and pilfering and ball handling skills that I've tried to improve. And I think I've made good gains, especially this year.
Yeah. Even
though I had limited time with, tough selections, I still think when I was on the park, I was playing the best footy that I have,
Yeah, so 15 games in 2019, 14 in your debut season. You did make that debut against the Brumbies. Do you remember that day?
Yeah. It was, it was good. I remember the first game of the season was against the Rebels. That was away. I didn't play. I was the water boy that game. And then Scott Higginbotham, my good mate, got a red card.
Out for the next game, yeah.
Yeah, legit. But the red card wasn't anything, but that's a different story. But got a red card, suspended for a week. And then I was like, okay, this could be a shot here for me, which is pretty cool. Sat on the bench, came on for like 10 minutes. Like I said, like the goosebumps were definitely there. For the first time, makes it even more special. And we had a good win that game actually, which I remember really fondly of. And I remember that game in particular because they were shooting like fire streams behind the the dead ball line. And I was like, after we won, they were shooting them, and I was like, this is sick. Like I want to keep doing this at Suncorp.
Yeah.
So that was sort of like what really egged me on to keep playing,
Couple of questions on the debut. Are you a nervous, emotional type when you get the call up and you're thinking about it, or do you handle it pretty even keel?
I mean, when you first find out you're playing, you're like, it was all worth it. Like you feel just a sense of relief, I guess. And then 5 minutes later, you think, oh, I've been selected. I've got to get my head on because, all the stuff I've trained for has got to sort of come to fruition this weekend, and I want it to be my best performance because I want more opportunity. Then I guess on the bench, benching is like tactically a different mindset than starting. Starting, you want to get revs up and warm up. You want to like go out there and make your first play your best. But benching, especially when you don't know when you're coming on a debut, and if you even get on, because you just sit there the full 80 minutes, you just got to stay. It's a hard one because you want to stay mentally relaxed, but at the same time you want to be ready to go if anyone goes down. So I knew probably highly unlikely I'd get on first half. So I was just trying to relax and just stretch and make the body feel good. But come second half, it's when you're just nervous. Yeah. There's no way you can get around it. If anyone says they're not nervous, they're lying because it's just human nature, like fight or flight, and you just got to sit there and get through it. And I found that often playing rugby or playing any sport at elite level is more a physical test, yes, but I think it's more also a test of, holding your nerve and being able to actually operate in uncomfortable, nervous environments where you're like genuinely nervous or afraid that you're going to stuff something up. But growth comes from when you're in those positions and you just do the job.
What about being welcomed into the team? Is there a bit of an initiation ceremony? Do the senior guys get their arm around you? How does that work that they welcome you into the group?
Well, when I started, we didn't really have too much of a hierarchy, to be honest, because we didn't have too many old guys. There was a lot of young guys coming through because there's a lot of 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds that were coming through when I was there. So we pretty much were the majority of the squad, guys who aged 19 to 21, 22. When we're the bulk of the squad. And there are a few guys like Higgers, like Scott Higginbotham, was obviously a role model of mine growing up, playing my position and playing for the Wallabies. So I took pretty fondly to him. Guys like George Smith, who's recognised as one of the best players ever. He was a legend. Guys like Samu, who I'd known because I'd done a bit of training from the academy. I'd come up and train with the Reds for a few years, just for pre-seasons and occasional training sessions. But Samu's like a legend. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. So it's good that I had a few guys I knew knew that were in the squad, and some guys I knew from 20s as well, like Rodder and Lucan, who were already established players. So for me, it wasn't that hard of a transition, to be honest. Just had to meet a few new guys and then adjust to the level of rugby.
Can you tell me about Brad Thorne? I'm pretty fascinated by him.
Sure.
I got to see him play for the Leicester Tigers. I think he was aged 39, maybe about to go 40.
He retired when he was 40,
Yeah, incredible. And a widely revered figure in world rugby. What's he like? You've worked with him at the Reds, but also Queensland country. Maybe tell us something that the public wouldn't know about Brad Thorne.
Well, I have been with Thorne for about 5 years now, because when he first came to the Reds, he was given the under-20s gig. He was firstly forwards coach, and then the next year was head coach for, I think, 2 years, and then got the Reds gig, and I've been with him ever since for my 3 years, because he was promoted when I was promoted, pretty much. Thorne, he is what you picture him to be. He is that man. He's the big, tough, scary guy who's pretty bloody intimidating to talk to. But at the same time, he is like a very caring individual. He cares pretty deeply about the players. On the field, he wants their performances to be good, but off the field, he cares about them as people. I know he's quite a devout Christian, and that sort of shines through with all his values. But yeah, in general, intimidating, but very good-hearted man that knows a lot of footy, because he's got a lot of technical skills you wouldn't usually pick up on. Yeah. But he just knows the ins and outs, because he's spent, 20-odd years on both codes.
Yeah, incredible career. When you say intimidating, is it he just sets standards that are extremely high?
Yeah.
Or is it the delivery of, say, some feedback that's...
Oh, yeah. He can be blunt with some feedback, but, like, you'd expect the coaches to be like that. You don't want them to beat around the bush. He's intimidating, because of his high standards, definitely. He has this saying, he's always talking about strive for excellence, not mediocrity, is like what he always says, which I think is a good motto to live by. And obviously physically he's quite intimidating, because he's sometimes, when we're in the gym doing our weights, he'll sometimes walk in and there'll be some weight on the rack and he'll just pick it up and just rack it, do like 10 reps at like 150 kilos on bench, and just like our strongest boys will be lifting that. He's like, oh yeah, it's not bad. And he's our coach. And he's 45 now? Yeah. And he's just pulling it out like it's nothing. So that's pretty intimidating that he can still outlift us. Yeah.
It sounds like you live at Ballymore.
Pretty much.
When the season's kicking off, and we'll talk a bit more about your study here at UQ and, the degrees you've done so far and what you're moving into. But, I mean, how much time are you actually spending training?
Well, throughout the most recent Super Rugby AU tournament, we pretty much did live at Ballymore. Like, we weren't, because we weren't allowed to go anywhere. We were in the Queensland government when we flew down to play the Waratahs. Since then, every time we played an opposition that was from New South Wales, we had to quarantine for 2 weeks, which essentially was because all the other teams were based in New South Wales, with quarantine for the rest of the tournament, plus 2 weeks after that. So it ended up being like 8 weeks where we were only allowed to go to training and go to home. And that's it. Wow. So we pretty much organised like heaps of activities. Like everyone brought their dogs in one day. We had like cricket games a few times throughout the weeks, a few barbecues, just to keep everyone entertained, because we literally were living at home and coming in to Ballymore. But in normal times, a usual training week, we're usually on Monday, so there's like a game week mid-season. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday are like pretty solid training sessions. Friday's a captain's run, Saturday's like travel and play. But those Monday, Tuesday, Thursday days, like we'll get in at like 8 or 9, have some meetings, gym session, lunch break, maybe some field after that, and get out by like 2 or 3. Yeah, so it's pretty time intensive.
So you were quoted in a UQ Contact magazine article about a year ago. It was quite interesting. So you had a line there. You said, "I learnt that studying whenever you can, whether it's on board a long-haul flight or between training sessions, was very important." Is that really what happens? You'll pump out some training and then just hit the books?
Legit, yeah. I get paid out a bit for it. I don't do it as much anymore. Yeah. Just because you can't get any quality study done when there's guys running around like literally naked in the change room, walking around in front of you, or throwing cricket balls in front of your face. But yeah, no, I did that a bit. I'm a big fan of Uber Eats, so all I do after I finish training is I order my Uber Eats as I'm walking back over the change room, have a shower, pick up my Uber Eats at the front gate, walk back to the change room, eat my food, and then get out my books and study for like an hour or two, and then go to the afternoon session.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, which is, I don't, like when I finished my undergraduate, I was a lot more social.
Yeah.
Even my mates like Tate and Rongers and stuff were like, who's this bloke? Like, it's fun young he's back, because obviously previously in lunch breaks I'd do my own thing and just go study, because I was doing full-time study. Like, I didn't really have, I wasn't at liberty to go out and like just muck around for an hour and a half. But yeah, it's pretty funny how now all the boys have noticed a shift since finishing my undergrad. So
does it actually help decompress the stresses of rugby to completely focus on something so far away from the footy field?
Yeah, I think it definitely does. I think people like me, it depends what sort of person you are, but people like me who love to learn and love a wide variety of things, sometimes when I focus too much like on rugby and it's just rugby and I go home and I'm just thinking rugby, it gets like quite acidic and you just feel like, oh, like I'm just putting too much effort into this. Like I want the best outcome for that, but at the same time I want to have like reprieve. So for me, studying was a good outlet to sort of like get away from the headspace of rugby and thinking about, I should have done this, I should have done that on the rugby field. Whereas when I'm studying, I'm just focusing pretty much on what I need to know. And the other way around, it works as well, because when I'm studying, I want to have a break from learning all that stuff. My brain feels fried. I just go out on the footy field and run around and have a sweat, you know? Yeah. So they work well together. But I will say, I think I don't recommend doing full-time study, because especially around exam time, it can be pretty intense in terms of time management. Because there's been heaps of times that I've done an exam and had to drive to like the Gold Coast like straight after, get out of the car, start warm up for like an NRC game, which is just stupid. It's not good for your body.
Yeah.
But like I wanted to get it done, but I'm glad it's done now. But I don't recommend it because it can get very intense.
What about like all-nighters and stuff like that?
Oh, I'm not really an all-nighter kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like I need my sleep, because otherwise I just can't function the next day.
Yeah.
I've done like one or two on my time, because sometimes you just have to.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to. But I mean, like the past couple of weeks, just after doing my knee, I was in hospital for 10 days, like I said before, and I had 2 assignments due, and I was like actually happy to have those assignments, because I was sitting in hospital bed, like staring at the walls. I'd watched enough movies, like for a year's worth. I couldn't watch any more movies, and so I had these 2 assignments. And although like you think, oh, I'm injured, I'm sore, I don't want to do the assignment. For me, that was like an awesome way to spend my time. I got them done, and I was like, good, like out of hospital, so all sweet.
So, I mean, Super Rugby's changed forever with COVID. The old Super Rugby format, South Africa, Argentina, Japan, it's gone now. But when you were touring like that, and you're potentially away for 2-3 weeks at a time, you're going to South Africa, maybe over to Argentina.
Yep.
How much study are you doing while you're on tour? And like, are you actually doing stuff on a plane?
Yeah, I've done stuff on a plane before. Yeah, it's pretty hard to study because you're so cramped.
Yeah.
Like business class would be sweet, but we rarely get that.
Yeah, cattle.
Yeah, legit. Oh, well, we get it when, I think the regulation is like, if it's over 9 hours, the flight, you get a business class seat. So when you go to South Africa or Argentina.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have studied in economy before, flying to Perth. So I didn't study for long because it was just too cramped, to be honest.
And are you doing stuff on the ground or in airports or anything like that?
Yeah, well, I guess the good thing about traveling is, like, a lot of people think when you travel for footy that you'll be able to just like go and do whatever you want, and it's like a holiday. But it's not really a holiday, because you have like a pretty rigorous training schedule. It's like the same training schedule I'd have in Brisbane in terms of timing, and you really only have like one day where you can go explore the city, which is like your off day or Wednesday, usually for us. So when we went to South Africa, Johannesburg or Durban or whatever, we'd have like an awesome life experience on the Wednesday, in between all our training. Like we went to the Lion Park and like shark diving, and which was awesome in Durban. But other than that, around training times, like you'll finish at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you won't have dinner till like 7 or 8.
So not much time.
Yeah, you've got like windows where you just sit around the hotel, and most of the time the boys just play cards or just muck around and watch TV. Like cards is so much fun on tour. Like you get so competitive. That's like the funnest way to pass time. But like there is certainly window of opportunity for you to do like a bit of study overseas, and it's almost better when you're removed from everything because there's no distractions. You're in a different country, and you've got like 3 hours to kill. You might as well just do an hour study and go play cards with your mates after that.
Any unique experiences touring Argentina and Japan?
Well, Japan's like beautiful. Like it's such a cool place. It's so different. It's so foreign. First time going there, it's so foreign to me. But I thought it was awesome. With Japan, we don't really have as much downtime because we don't have, like, it's not a full tour. Like we fly over there for like 4 days, instead of like the 2-week like South Africa tour.
Yeah.
Because it's the same time zone. And it's a 9-hour flight, so it's quite an easy transition. Whereas South Africa and Argentina, because you fly across like 8 or 10 like different time zones, you get like absolutely rocked with jet lag.
Yeah,
but you don't have to think about that with Japan trips as much. With Argentina's a cool place. We've stayed in the same place twice now, but I've done a few cool we've engaged cool like travel guides that take us to like the hotspots. We went to La Boca soccer stadium, which was cool as we got a tour there.
Boca Juniors?
Boca Juniors, yeah. And I got a T-shirt, BBVA, yeah, cool T-shirt. We walked around there and there's this little place in Buenos Aires. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like this whole street is just covered with like colourful buildings that are like pink and purple and yellow, and like it's like an art sort of district. Went there, which was sick. The ones in South Africa, I'd probably say are like pretty memorable. Like I said, the Lion Park in Johannesburg, we went and played against the Lions, and the shark diving in Durban was sick because we just got up early on Wednesday morning, drove to the coast, and like you're not in a cage or anything, you just dive in the water, and they're like throwing chum in the water with these sharks, and they told you to put your hands in fists and like hold them close to your chest, because the type of shark are like some sort of reef shark, so they're not going to eat you because they're not like, they're big, they're like 7-8 feet long, so they're big sharks, but their mouths aren't very big, so they're not going to bite you. But what they eat are small little fish that look like fingers. So they said if you have your fingers out straight, the sharks, there's a chance they've had it happen before. The shark will just come and nip your finger off.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Reds to a loser's hand.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
Let's rewind a little, Angus. You've obviously got a dad who is pretty firmly entrenched in rugby. Sam Scott-Young, played for the Wallabies 7 times. I'm keen to understand your relationship with him from a rugby point of view. What's he like as a supporter? Is he hands-on? Does he let you live your own life out there?
Sometimes. In the past, he's been pretty hands-on, but it's been a few stern talkings between him and Mum to sort out, that needs to step back, and it's sort of like my time to pave my own path, because the last thing that I want is to just be always, Sam's got a young son. So it's something else I got to deal with. But all in all, I don't think he's not one of those crazy dads who has to get, escorted off by security or anything, but he's just a passionate man.
What about the flip side? Do you use him as a bit of a sounding board?
To be honest, I talked to Mum more about it because she's like more impartial.
Yeah.
Like I said, Sam's he's pretty fiery, pretty passionate. And when you talk about footy, the modern game, it's pretty different to what he played, because what his niche in his footy team was to be a disruptor. He was just like pretty much a guy on the field who was just there to hurt people, hit people off the ball, do whatever he could to get inside their heads, which I think still has a place in today's game. But you've got to manage that like a lot more cautiously, because the sanctions nowadays are a lot stricter.
His classic Wallabies profile pretty much sums up what you said.
Yeah.
Sam Scott-Young was a combative and abrasive back row forward who showed scant regard for reputation when locked in battle on the rugby field.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much what I said.
There's a great video from '92. It's a test match at Ballymore between the Wallabies and the All Blacks. He's basically face-to-face with Richard Lowe from the All Blacks, blowing kisses, winking at the haka.
Yep.
Have you seen that video much, and has he recounted much of that tale?
I've seen the video. He hasn't recounted it much because I'm not sure if he remembers the night, because there is a photo that's framed in my house of his head after the game, and Richard Lowe is notorious for being quite an abrasive character himself. They had sharp studs back then, and he got a big rucking on my dad's face and skull, and there's so the photo is Dad like on a stretcher, blood pouring out the side of his head pretty much. And he's still got his head tape on. There's just blood everywhere. So I'm not sure. That would have been a pretty fiery night on the footy field, because I know the haka is a well-respected tradition of the Kiwis. So to blow a kiss, like I said, that's like his thing, is to disrupt. And if you disrupt a tradition like that, it's going to get some guys offside. And back then, it's pretty lawless. It was a bit of a Wild West on the field. There was no refs protecting you, so like that was the risk, I guess, he wanted to take.
With a dad as a Wallaby, how strong is that Wallaby dream in your life? I assume it's something you see a lot. You see a lot of the symbols of it. There's probably framed jerseys everywhere. I assume you've been living and breathing that dream as a kid. Is that right?
Definitely, yeah. I remember when Johnny Wilkinson slotted that the drop goal to win the World Cup final. That was like heartbreaking for me as a kid, because I was watching that with one of my dad's old jerseys on. But I've always wanted to play for the Wallabies, and I still do. It's a massive goal of mine. I've got like a burning passion to represent this country, and I really want to do it, next year or the year after, like as soon as possible. I want to be out there wearing the green and gold. But I know I've got a lot to work on in my game, but I think, my desire, my determination in that space will bodes well for the long run, and I can't wait until an opportunity arises, in that sphere. I'd take it with both hands.
So you've worn the green and gold for Australia at under 20s level, vice captain at the 2017 World Rugby under 20 championships in Georgia. What was that experience like on tour?
It was a cool experience. It's culturally quite different in Georgia. I never thought that'd be a place that I'd end up going for a footy tour, but as an emerging footy nation in Georgia, it was pretty cool. The only way I can really describe Georgia is like European sort of architecture meets like a Middle Eastern sort of like influence, but then it's quite a contrast within the city, where it's like some parts are really well developed, other parts are essentially just run down areas. So it's like you walk one street and it's just you don't want to be in that place anymore. The people are quite interesting people. Some are quite accommodating, some are quite scary. But to play over there was actually really, really cool. I really enjoyed playing in the Australian teams with some awesome guys in our team who have achieved some great things now. Although it's sort of mixed results, because they're quite a hard tournament, the 20s tournaments, because of the shortened pools. It's essentially, if you lose one game out of your first three in the pools, you can't play any top four positions, which was tough for us, considering we literally lost by 1 point to England and won our two other games in our pool, and that wasn't enough to get us into the top four. So we were playing off like below fifth downwards. So that was tough, but that was an awesome experience. The vice captain of the team was a massive honour. I got to captain the team once in a trial game before we left in Sydney against, I think it was New South Wales Country, which was an awesome experience, even though a midweek game doesn't actually count as a captaincy. But that was a really good opportunity for me, and I think that season was really what springboarded me into becoming a professional the year after.
So you've got Wallabies aspirations. What about captaincy aspirations with the Reds? Is it some sort of leadership role you'd like to?
Yeah, I've always, loved to be a leader because I'm very determined and passionate for whatever cause I stick to, whether that's academic or whether that's sporting. My good mate Rongers is captain of the Reds this year, so I've sort of been supporting him in a way. I'm in the leadership group now, which is a cool benefit that sort of came in Super Rugby AU with a few guys leaving, and hopefully be in it next year. But I think that's like an awesome opportunity for me to sort of make my voice heard within the sphere, because I have good ideas in the rugby space. And I'd love to take on any opportunity that comes my way, to be honest. That's just who I am. I'll embrace any sort of opportunities like that in the future.
We've got some concrete, formation of what the season's going to look like in 2021. So Super Rugby AU from February to May, 22-game season, like we experienced this time around. But then it spawns into a Trans-Tasman competition in May, June. So the Aussie teams play the New Zealand sides. Yeah. As a supporter, I think that's a wonderful fit. But what about as a player? Do you like that concept going forward, that it might be a domestic league that meets New Zealand?
Definitely. I think that, to be honest, that's close to best case scenario of what what was going to happen, because we only found out pretty much when the public found out. We weren't told what was actually happening. We didn't know there was a broadcast deal, because I'm involved quite heavily with RUPA, the Players Association, which has had discussions with Rugby Australia about that sort of stuff. But I think the current 2021 season looks unreal. Like, I'm really excited to play it, because you get to have, like I said, those grudge matches, those derby matches in Australia, and fight for, Wallabies jersey. And then you get the added bonus of like I think it's a 6-week tournament at the end to play against the Kiwi teams who are historically the best in the world. And they play a different brand of rugby. It's fast, it's aggressive. You test yourself against them. And then there's opportunity to play finals in both those tournaments. So there's opportunity for plenty of silverware and meaningful silverware as well. So I think it's unreal. And then all goes well. I've heard mutterings of the Wallabies fixtures after that, and it all looks like, the world of rugby is back on track after a sort of rough year this year.
Yeah, it feels like a bit of a stepping stone. Domestic league, New Zealand league, straight awesome. Into the finals, a lot to play for. Yeah. You mentioned you're in hospital with a knee injury. Will that throw off preparations for 2021?
It shouldn't. It shouldn't throw off my knee. I should be back pretty soon, to be honest. Looking at sort of mid-Jan is when I'm back on the paddock, ready to go. I think the first game for the for Super Rugby AU is going to be 20th of Feb, roughly, from memory. So that gives me a month to get back in shape and put on a few kilos and get ready to rip in.
Before we talk about study, I do want to mention your involvement with the UQ Rugby Club. So you turn out, regularly for the heavies. Yeah. You've been involved in Hospital Cup wins in 2017, 2019. Mm-hmm. Is it true that you played the 2019 Hospital Cup final off the back of having pneumonia?
Correct. That's another, I don't know, I seem to get burnt out after the Super Rugby season. I don't know, maybe it's the study, maybe it's because I don't actually have any rest time. But yeah, last year got pneumonia, in the 2019 tournament, got pneumonia, was in hospital for, a week. Wow. It was weird. I'm still unsure if I actually had pneumonia because there was a cluster of bacteria in my right lung, but I could breathe fine. I think it might have been in my pleura, but that's a different thing. But yeah, I came out of hospital when they played the semi-final the week before against Jeeps, I think. And I was running water, and I was just so unfit. Yeah. I was running water out there, and I was ran 50 meters just to give him water. And I was oh my God, I'm blowing. And then the next week, I was I obviously want to play this final. I spoke to Hina about it. I had a few niggles because of sitting in the hospital bed, but I came off the bench.
How crook were you though?
Pretty bad.
Out of 100, I mean, we're talking about 40%
at the time of the game, or
when you actually ran out.
Well, the 2 weeks. So it was 2 weeks before the grand final that I went to hospital. I was 8 out of 10, couldn't keep my eyes open, near 40 degrees, is my body temperature, vomiting every 2 seconds. I was just a really, really bad case of gastro is what I picture people would relate to. Then getting to the grand final, I was if 10, I'm fighting fit. 1, I'm dead. I probably was a 4. Yeah. I was I felt bad, but I wanted to be out there. And I told Hino, the UQ coach, I was nah, I don't think putting me on the field for 80 minutes would be a smart decision because I'd get gassed out. 60-minute mark, I'd probably be a zombie. Yeah. And I was just give me the last 30-odd minutes and I'll come on and try and close it out. And to be honest, the UQ boys, they didn't really need me because they were playing some awesome footy. Guys like Sammy Wallace were absolutely killing it.
Tight game though, 31-26 against Brothers.
It was, but they scored a try at the end to make it a closer game. But you could see just the little contests of what I sort of noticed in the grand final is what decides who wins. And yeah, guys like Hocko was an absolute freak that day. He got the medal, Tony Shaw medal at the end of it for being best player on ground. And I've never seen him play that well before. He was bumping people and he's a big string bean. I've never seen him do that. And it's plucking ball. He did one thing where he plucked the ball out of the air, intercept when they were literally about to walk over and score.
It seems like playing for UQ is pretty important to you to to sacrifice your health, but what does it mean to you to represent?
100%. Like this season throughout the Reds, it's probably like 2 or 3 weeks to go, and I was excited for finals. I really wanted to win the tournament. At the same time, I was talking to like Sammy Wallace and guys in the gym, and I was like, I also can't wait to get back and play for UQ because I just like, I don't know, I like the environment. I like how it's not as structured. The football itself isn't as structured, and you can just sort of grab the ball and do your thing. Awesome people involved, like the support staff, like Heather Arthey and all the support staff are like incredible. It's just really good people as well as good operators. So I love the environment. I love playing for them, and I don't know. I just like the culture down there. It's quite a good place to play.
Yeah, people speak so highly of it, and they love coming back. And you see a lot of former Wallabies. They'll send tribute messages all the time, which is great.
And Squeak's down there a bit, so he's still down there.
So you're doing all this, you're playing footy around the world, you're representing your club, and you're also doing a heap of study here at UQ. So you've already completed a Bachelor of Commerce and Bachelor of Science degrees. What drew you to those?
Well, I always knew when I was at school that I had a massive passion for science, maths and science. I did like, you probably heard of the Suicide Six, they say at school, is like biochem, physics, maths B, maths C, and English. It's like the subjects you take to get like the best OP possible because they're the hardest subjects. But that's what I did. I really enjoyed it. Like I've always been interested in science, so I knew science was going to be one part of what I want to do. At the same time, I didn't just want to be like a science nerd. I wanted to learn some life skills. And I wanted to learn how, science as an isolated discipline is quite interesting in itself, but it has to be applied in some sense to create value. And I think business is a good outlet for that. So I decided to take commerce because my brother did commerce economics, dual, and he's 3 years older than me. And so he had a good look at the commerce degree and said, yeah, it's a good one. You should give it a go. So I did that. And like I'd never done commerce before, any business thing at school, and I really liked it. Like that developed a love for business and the economy and how it all interacts, like to a level that's almost equal to science. So I love doing that degree, and I think it gives you like a really diverse range of subject matter to look at. Like in a given semester, I'd be taking like a physics subject, like a biomed subject, a finance subject, and then like a accounting subject. Like that covers like a pretty broad spectrum of ideas, and I think that's a good thing to have for anyone.
And now tackling a master's.
Yeah.
What are you up to there?
Well, I guess it's a similar vein to my undergraduate. I'm doing to be honest, I'll tell you the full story because of the medicine story. Everyone thinks I'm doing medicine at the moment, but make it clear that haven't started yet because I've got a provisional entry to medicine. I did the UMAT test when I finished Year 12 in 2014 and gained entry to the Masters of Doctor of Medicine at UQ, but I had to do an undergraduate first. That's the contingency. So I've got that ticket to go into medicine. It was meant to start semester 1 this year, but because of rugby, I had a conversation with the university and they said, you can push it back for 2 years. So I'm meant to be studying medicine in 2022. But they said, in the interim, you have to study something to keep in touch, which makes sense to me. And I wanted to do that anyway. So I've taken a master's this semester. I took sort of the COVID break off, started up, it's a bit of a mouthful, Masters of Entrepreneurship and Innovation, majoring in biotech, but I pretty much tell everyone it's just a biotech master's. Yeah, and it's been very interesting.
We hope you have a long and fruitful career with the Reds and then leading to a Wallabies run, we hope. Yeah. Is there an end goal in terms of employment or sort of a work career that you'd love to step into once the footy career's done?
I don't know. It's hopefully it's a long way away because I want, like you said, a fruitful long footy career. But I mean, if I had to say what I want to do, like I've always wanted to study overseas as well. Although I'm studied heaps at UQ, people might think, oh, when are you going to give up study? I sort of picture myself as like a lifelong learner in a way. Because I think that makes you a better person when you test yourself like that. But I've always wanted to study overseas, and I've always, since I went in 2015 to the Rugby World Cup in England, I went and had a look at Oxford, and then in 2019, I went and had a look at Cambridge University through a few contacts, I think the studying over there, like even for just a few semesters, just to sort of appreciate the history and the intellect that comes from out of it would be awesome for me in my career, wherever I decide to go. So I'd love to study somewhere a bit like James Horwell is over at Cambridge at the moment doing an executive MBA. I had a chat with him when I was over there, and he's just finished his footy career with Harlequins and is studying over there. I would love to do something like that. I don't know when it'll work in to my life, potentially similar to him after my footy career, go over there and study and upskill. But I'd love to do that. And then post that, I mean, could do anything. I'd love, considering I have quite an entrepreneurial spirit that's similar to what I'm studying. I would love to start my own business in some capacity. I'd love to get involved with like pharmaceuticals, some sort of biotech company. Get into venture capital would be the ultimate. Like if I'm 60 and just had a lovely career, that'd be sick. And that's
so much on your plate.
Yeah, well, like I don't want to. I'm not one of those people who doesn't want to achieve a lot. Like I want to do a lot of things, but I want to do a wide variety of things. And you want to look back on your life and be like, that was a bit of a ride. Like there's a lot going on, but all of it was, tough but fun.
Mate, I really enjoyed chatting to you.
Yeah,
that was a fascinating insight into a career in footy, but also studies. Thanks for dropping by.
All good. Thanks for having me.
A massive thanks to Angus, and we wish him well ahead of another big campaign for the Reds this year. And if you're enjoying the show, please do us a solid and swing us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Your support goes a long way. Okay, that's full time on this episode. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time on the Armchair Fan Podcast.